Hello, composition. We're going to do a quick lesson on sentence parameters. So what do I mean by parameters? Like the bounds of a sentence. How do you know when you should stop writing one sentence and start writing another? So we're going to take a look mainly at the punctuation of that. So, all right, let's get our little camera here. Okay, so sentence parameters. We talked in our last lesson about what sentence fragments were. So hang on, then you gotta go. Okay. So we know that a sentence has to have a subject and a verb, right? All right. So there are different ways that you can punctuate it. You can end your sentence and verb with a period and start another sentence with a subject and verb. You can have a sentence with a subject and verb, end it with a semicolon, so long as there's another subject and verb after it. You can have a sentence with a subject and verb and use a colon, so long as there is another subject and verb after it. And Benny, you really are not helping. And then the last way is that if you have a sentence with a subject and verb, you can use, hang on one second, you can use a comma and fanboy. I asked some people the other day what fanboy was, and they really had no idea. So fanboy is a list of conjunctions that you can use to join two separate independent clauses or sentences. So they would be for, and, whoops, oh, that was awful, and, nor, but, or, yet, oh, and I forgot the S. So, all right. So those are the coordinating conjunctions that you can use to combine two independent clauses that have subjects and verbs. All right. So let's do a couple of examples. Okay, so here are our examples. So I'll use the same sentence, but we're going to see how to punctuate them, okay? So we have to look, first of all, to see that we have a subject and a verb in each part of the sentence before we say this is where one thought ends and where another thought begins, okay? So remember, we can use a period, a semicolon, a colon, or a comma with a fanboys, okay? So on each side, we have to have a subject and verb and another subject and verb. So let's take a look at this sentence. Okay, it says, Benny wanted to help teach sentence parameters. He climbed on the desk. All right, so Benny is our subject. Benny did what he wanted. So there's our verb, okay? He wanted to help teach sentence parameters. All right, so I could end my thought there. So I'll put a period. Then I'm going to start a new thought. He, notice this is capitalized. So he, that's our subject. What did he do? He climbed. That's our verb. He climbed on the desk. That's a whole other thought. So I'm going to end it with a period. Okay, so here you see the subject and verb separated by another subject and verb with a period. All right, same sentence. Let's look and see how we can use a semicolon. Benny wanted to help teach sentence parameters. He climbed on the desk. Here's our subject. Here's our verb. See, he has done it. I'm not lying. He wants to help you guys learn this. Okay, so Benny wanted, but his big head's in the way, so he's going to have to move. All right, so subject, verb. What Benny wanted. Subject, verb. Wanted to help teach sentence parameters. So that's the end of one thought. So I could use a semicolon here. And then here's our other subject and verb. So he climbed on the desk. And then I'm done with this thought, so I'm going to end it with a period. Okay. Next sentence, our colon. Now, using a colon isn't as commonplace. You might see it here and there, but there are questions about it on the ACT. So I wanted you guys to understand that it is also an option. So subject, verb. I can use a colon. Colon has other uses, and we'll talk about that in another lesson. Subject, verb. End of thought. So this and this and this show that that first thought has ended. Whoops, sorry about that. Show that this first thought has ended. A period says, I'm done with this thought. I'm moving on to another one. Okay? So the semicolon acts in the same way, as does the colon. Okay, let's look at a fanboy for this one. Benny wanted to help teach sentence parameters. So subject, verb. So he climbed on the desk. All right, so let's ask ourselves if everything after so is a complete sentence. Yep, we established that earlier. He climbed is our subject and verb. So, comma, and so, this acts as the colon does, and the semicolon, and the period, okay? So all of these show that this thought has ended. This is like the period for it. Oh, then, no, you can't move the camera. And then I'm done with this thought, so I'm going to put my period here. If the cat will stop chewing on my... He really does want to be helpful, but it's not working out so well. Okay, so we're going to do a couple more examples here in a second, but I just want you to understand that the period, the semicolon, the colon, and the comma fanboy all act just like the period does. It ends this first thought. It ends the first thought. The period at the end ends the second thought. Okay? All right, we're going to try a couple more. Okay, here are a couple examples that are a little bit complex, okay? So we have to figure out where the subject and verb is. So let's look at this first sentence. Although he wanted to be helpful, Benny was in the way. All right, so we have to figure out who's doing the action. Okay, there are two places I see that you might go to. First one is he, and the second one is Benny. All right, this, yep, if you look at this, actually, you say he wanted. Well, that looks like a subject and verb. However, this word, although, creates a clause that has to work together. So Benny is going to be our subject. What did Benny do? Well, he was. So we have a to be verb as our verb. All right, so subject and verb. So this is one thought. Now, we are going to need a punctuation. Here, we're going to need a comma because this clause, it all has to work together. Although he wanted to be helpful. This all works together, that whole clause. The main action, Benny was in the way. That's the truth, and that was the main sentence, okay? So Benny subject was verb. All right, this all has to work together. Now, let's see if we can look at the next sentence and figure out what to do. Although he wanted to be helpful, Benny was in the way. I put him on the floor. Okay, sounds like we've got two subjects and verbs. We already established that Benny was is our first subject and verb, and that although he wanted to be helpful has to work together, and we use a comma to separate it. That comma says that I could take this box away from the sentence and it would still make sense. Benny was in the way, right? That's a complete sentence on its own. But now I have this other part. I put him on the floor. Let's find the subject and verb there. What did I do? I put. So here's our subject and our verb. So I've got two subjects and verbs, so I need to figure out a way to separate them. What could I do? I could put a period. I could use a semicolon. I could use a colon. I want to save fanboys for the next one. So then I would end that with a period because here's my complete subject and verb. So on this side of the punctuation, I have a subject and verb. And on this side of the punctuation, I have a subject and verb. So this is one parameter, starting at although and going to way. And here's another parameter. I put him on the floor. So these work independently from one another. They are two complete sentences in and of themselves. Okay, let's look at the next one. Although he was in the way, Benny wanted to be helpful. I let him chew on my pen. So let's think about a fanboy. All right, so again, we have, I kind of changed it up a little bit. This word although makes a clause. Although he was in the way, we have to keep that together. Okay, so we keep that together. What's our subject and verb? Okay, who's doing what? Benny? Yep. What did he do? He wanted. Okay, he wanted to be helpful. So I let him chew on my pen. All right, so let's think about a fanboy that we could use. So what would be the best one? We could use so I let him chew on my pen, or and I let him, but really doesn't work yet, or for those don't work. So maybe we have a comma and so, or the comma and. So we have a little fanboy. So here is our subject, I. What did I do? I let. That's our verb. And then here's the end of the thought. I let him chew on my pen. Okay. So we can use our fanboy here to separate our two sentences. Subject and verb, separator, subject and verb. End of the thought. Okay, I'm going to give you some questions to do at the end here, or maybe I put them along the way. Gosh dang it. Yeah, see Benny, now he's rebelling, just like you teenagers. See, this is again why I don't have children. Anyway, so I'm going to have you do a couple of these, and I might make them, I'll start out some simple sentences, and then we'll make them a little bit more complex. All right, my friends. We will go over these in class to make sure that you understand. All right, good luck.